Welcome to Northwest Profiles, a look at people, places, and events of interest in the inland Northwest.
Welcome to Eagle Inn. Since you are here now, I can raise this. This indicated this wanted the stagecoach to stop. Now he knows he's not supposed to. He'll highball through with the next one. Come on in and we'll see if we can make you welcome. It's cool out here. Let's enter the inn. Ah, the wife is here.
Welcome to the Eagle Inn. Come in and refresh yourself.
We'll go over to the tap room and see if we can't fix you something to drink. In all the early inns and taverns, they had a tap room. Today we call it a bar, and we call it a bar today because the early tap rooms, all of them had bars in front. When we were ready to fix you a drink, the innkeeper would open up the tap room and enter. You say you would like to have a hot drink. Fine, we'll fix you one. I'll get my toddy iron and we'll heat it in the fireplace. This is called a toddy iron, and we'd heat it in the fireplace. When it got warm, we'd put it into your drink and you would then have a warm drink. It is also called a loggerhead. And you have often heard the expression used by people, well, the mayor and the consul are at loggerheads. Actually, very few of them realize that that saying came because two people who had a few drinks would have one of these and be swinging at each other. But you've heard enough of my talk. Maybe the wife has have something for you to eat. Let's go on over and see if she can fix us up something.
Why don't you come to the table and be seated? Our food is ready. You're going to be eating from what was called in those days a trencher. It was made of a board. When you come to an inn or a tavern, you come for board and room, and most people do not understand where that term came from. It was simply a board that had been hollowed out, and you ate from that. It also started the term a square meal, because it was just a square of a board. This tankard here is made of leather. They used leather. They used wooden noggins. They used horn for many things. Here's a horn beaker. In the early 1600s, the first ironworks was established in Saugus, Massachusetts, and at that time then you could have iron dishes to eat from. You could have iron tankards to drink from. If you were wealthier, perhaps you could have pewter. Keeping your food hot was a difficult thing in those days, so you would have a pewter plate that had a water reservoir, much as the children's plates are today. You would also have a pewter spoon, wooden bowls. Many times there would just be one big wooden bowl in the center of the table, and all of the family or friends would eat from that one wooden bowl. Here's another wooden bowl. This is a master salt in wood, and the sugar cone is something that most people today don't know about. Sugar in the early days came in a cone shape and was very hard. You used the sugar nippers to chunk off the piece that you needed to go in your tea or coffee, and if you needed it for cooking, it had to be pulverized, and you had to use a mortar and pestle. Why don't we go over and, since you have dined, you can either play checkers or cards. Well, I see you found the checker champion. The checkers that we're using are made of corn cobs, and we're just sliced off of the cob because the early colonists did not have real checkers. They made do with what they had. Also, the drinking vessels on the table One is a quart that you're drinking out of. This is a pint here, and when your wife tells you, you go out in the evening and she tells you to mind your P's and Q's, that meant mind how many pints and quarts you drank.
You know, I think as a checker player, you leave a little bit to be desired. Why don't we go over by the fire and warm up a little more? You know, the fireplace is the most important part of a home or an inn or tavern in the early 1700s. And the reason it was, everything took place around your fireplace. This is where your heat was. It was the only heat you had in your home. This is where all the cooking took place. This is where, if in this case you wanted to light your pipe, you would get your pipe tongs and you would reach into the fireplace, get a hot ember and put it in your pipe. It's called an ember or pipe tong. And you could stamp your tobacco down if you needed to, and you'd hang it up again. And if you didn't have a pipe tongs, you might have a spill holder which held spills which were actually rolled up paper. And you would reach into your fire, light it, and light your pipe. Remember, matches had not been invented at this time. There are many stories that you can tell around the fireplace. I'll lay my pipe down here and I'll give you an example. One of them, this is a blunderbuss. Early flintlock blunderbuss. You could buy this as it is, or you could buy parts to it. And if you bought parts, this is the flintlock, or the lock, the stock, and the barrel. And if you bought all three of them together, you bought lock, stock, and barrel. One of the sayings we use today, and very few people know where it came from. Another one, this is the pan to your musket, or your blunderbuss. You'd put powder in here, tap it, because there's a small hole between here and the magazine. Get ready to shoot, and hopefully it would fire. If it wasn't, it was a flash in the pan, and we all know how useless a flash in the pan is. When you wanted to cook a meal, one of the ways of doing it is with a reflector oven. It has, you skewer your meat on here. You would take small skewers, fasten your meat. You could baste your meat or check how it was coming. You could pour the grease off. At the end down here, we have little holes, and you would start your meat here, and ever so often you would move it. And after you had made a complete turn, the meat was done to a turn, which is another saying that we hear from time to time. You wanted to make toast in the morning, you put your toast in here, place it in front of your fire, and when it wanted to toast the other side of your toast, you would turn it thus. A clock jack, we think we're real clever today with a rotisserie, that we have electric rotisserie. In the early days, they had what is known as a bottle jack or a clock jack. I'm putting this weight on here to represent the meat that would be on here. And when you have this in front of your fireplace, and lo and behold, when it'll start turning one way, and then it'll click and go the other way. So a moving rotisserie that we are so proud of today is not something new. They had them in the early days. And it will go the other way. You want to roast your coffee, you have a coffee roaster over here. You want to make waffles, there's a waffle iron. There's a wafer iron.
This is your room, and if you find that it's too cool, you may light the fire, which has been laid. This is an early Franklin fireplace, not a Franklin stove, but a Franklin fireplace, because it does not have the doors like the modern ones. Here we have another convenience, a bed warmer, and if you feel that your bed is cold and you want to warm it, you may take coals out of the fire, put them in the bed warmer, and run them between the sheets to warm the sheets to take the chill off. This is a nice early cradle, which you will not have need for tonight. It's in an early mustard paint. The beds are early rope beds. The ropes would have been tied back and forth from head to foot and from side to side, and would have supported a corn husk mattress probably, and or a feather bed if you were lucky. Over here, this bed is higher, and many of the beds were high for two reasons. One reason was because it was warmer up higher. The other reason was in order to be able to put a trundle bed underneath, which could be used by a small child or an adult. The expression climbing into bed, which we use currently and have used for many, many years, came from the fact that the beds were high and they had bed steps in order to climb up into bed if you were a short person. I hope you have a good night's rest and wake in the morning refreshed.
We hope your stay was an enjoyable one, and come and see us again.
If you have a topic for Northwest Profiles, send it to KSPS TV, South 3911 Regal, Spokane, Washington 99223. Northwest Profiles is a presentation of KSPS TV.